Hi again. It's Auburn week. We get ready for the Deep South's oldest rivalry. That's what they call it. Georgia and Auburn in early October. It's a little bit different, but take it like you can get it. And Georgia comes in ranked number 2, undefeated still after the win at Missouri last week, 5-0 now. Auburn comes in with a few issues, and hopefully Georgia can hand them a few more issues this weekend. We've got two of our great analysts, Kevin Butler and DJ Shockley, here today. And guys, before we get ahead to look at Auburn, I just want to get your take on what transpired last week. What was your takeaway from that performance by Georgia up in Columbia, Missouri last week?
Well, first off, Kev is much better looking than Z, so this is very welcome. So, no, but
You're the only one.
Way more hair than me and Scott for sure. I mean, we'll be strong. But you know what? It was an interesting game to say the least. Obviously, walking into that ball game, you thought you would be able to control the ball game in Missouri. You thought you would be able to do everything you wanted to do, and Missouri was a team that was, kind of struggling. Coming off a hard loss to Auburn the week before in overtime. So you think it would be one of those type of games where you would feel good about it. But then you got to remember, it's on the road. It's in the SEC. It's at night. You got a bunch of young guys who haven't really been in that kind of environment yet. So obviously that paid into it. But I just love the way the team ended up finishing the ball game. I mean, everything was against them throughout the majority of the ball game. Missouri's making plays offensively. You struggle to get in the end zone. You would move the ball fine 20-20, then get in the red zone and stall out a little bit and kicked a lot of field goals. And then you think about it, with 13 minutes to go in the game, you're down 10 points on the road. And this is your first real true adversity of the season. And I was talking with Kirby after the game, and he was more excited about how his team responded and how some of the guys who he really didn't know how they would respond in an environment like that or with adversity like that, and was glad to see someone actually rise to the occasion and play some good football to end. So I've been telling people all week, they've been asking me, what's wrong with the Dogs? Hey, listen, sometimes you got to win them ugly. And sometimes, teams come out and they fight you. You're the number 1 team in the country, and people want to beat you. So they're going to give you your best. So ultimately, I love the way the guys finished, Cam.
Yeah, I just kind of agree with what DJ says. When I heard you were talking to Kirby in the interview, it's always neat to hear how coaches assess it. And I was really happy to see Kirby assess it that way, because that's really how I saw it. You've got to learn how to deal with adversity somehow. You can't do it in practice. They try to simulate it as much as they can. But when the crowd's against you, you're on the road, you're not home. Things are going against you, and you have to believe in the process. You have to believe in the commitment that the team has to keep doing it, because it will work. That's more growth for this team than anything we could have gained out of a 37-7 win. I think that would have just made it be a little bit more anxious this week, because you've got another team, as DJ said, that they're getting a chance to knock off the defending national champs. And when a team has that motivation, they come out and play at a different level. And I think our young kids learn that, and they learned it on the road. Just a valuable lesson.
Nationally, guys, the picture is kind of what DJ was saying. It's like people are asking, what's wrong with Georgia? Why didn't they go in and just boat race Missouri and win by 30 or 40? And if you break it down a little bit more, then I think you'll see the true answer. Yes, Georgia did not get off to a good start. First 5 possessions were 3 punts and 2 fumbles. After that, however, 6 straight possessions where they scored points, 4 field goals, 2 touchdowns, and then the last possession to run out the clock. I think there's a lot of positive to come out of that, which maybe a lot of people aren't focusing on.
Yeah, I like that second half. They came out and just said, Scott, four scores in a victory formation. And when you throw that victory formation at the end, you've done something right. And they had to fight back. I tell you what was tough, and what I really liked about them is every time they did something, Missouri answered. Though they answered with field goals, Georgia did a wonderful job of stopping them from getting in the end zone. But just that on the road of the team answering, Georgia answered each time. it didn't knock them off. And I really think Missouri was hoping, well, one of these field goals is going to deflate them. And it didn't. And that's what really, I think, was the most valuable thing that Georgia team learned, that even though they're chipping away, we can chip away a little bit more. We're going to get into that end zone. And that, at the end of the day, was the difference in the game.
There are a couple of things that I look back in that ball game and I say, yes, like you mentioned, Scott, there are a lot of good things that you can point to, especially late in the ball game. And I'm down there on the sideline, and one of the things that I thought was so just paramount was just everybody was so locked in was when the Dogs did the fake field goal and Stetson picks it up. And I'm standing on the sideline, and you couldn't tell like something was going to happen. You couldn't tell like they were getting ready for something. Everybody was locked into their particular job and just went out and did it. And I thought that was so critical that, you know, they didn't need to take a timeout. They didn't need to, you know, kind of surprise them with it the way they did. It was pretty cool to see. The other part was, if people want to know what exactly is 4-minute offense, you saw it at the end of that ball game. And one thing that Kirby said to him at halftime was to the offensive line. I said on the thing, he said, I'm going to put it on you guys' shoulder. We did not run the football like I wanted us to in the first half. And we're going to run the football regardless if they know it or not. We're going to establish that part of the game. And I thought late in the ball game, when you needed to run the rock, give Dejon Edwards a lot of credit, man. He came in and he ran hard. He picked up some valuable yards in that ball game. And he's been that guy over the last few years that closes teams out. Well, he's doing it now. He's closing teams out in valuable minutes. So love to see him be ready for his opportunity. And I think one other thing that we got to point out, I know Kev will like this, is just how clutch Pod was. Because if he wasn't clutching his ball game and he misses one or he misses, you know, two in the ball, whatever it may be, that outcome is totally different. The momentum of the game is totally different. And Kev talked about, hey, being able to respond. Well, when you go down and you get those points on the board and you know, they go down, they score, they put up 10, now it's back to 10. And you go back and you score and you continue to, you know, put the pressure on them to continue to score. It's just big. And for a guy to go do that on the road, Kev knows how crazy it can be on the road kicking in the SEC. So to be able to go out and do it and crush it every single time he steps up to the plate was huge.
Yeah, he really did. I tell you, not only did he get SEC Player of the Week, he was one of the Lou Groza Stars of the Week again. Clutch kicking, you know. One thing I do know, you missed that first one, Shock. You know how crazy us kickers are. They might not hit another one the rest of the day. So both of those guys were just dead on, fun to watch, and couldn't be more proud of Pod.
The thicker kicker, no doubt.
Yeah.
That's 2 weeks in a row now for Pod Special Teams Player of the Week in the Southeastern Conference. Auburn this week at Sanford Stadium. It's a 3:30 start. Interesting group, the Auburn, with quarterback Robbie Ashford now at the helm. TJ Finley is kind of on the sidelines, apparently injured. And this Ashford young man is a transfer from Oregon. But he had 2 years there, but he didn't play football there. He was on the team, but he redshirted his first year, didn't get on the field the next year, but he was a baseball player at Oregon. What's your take on this guy? I mean, this is kind of new to him. SEC football. He's the starting quarterback now on an SEC team, and he hadn't had a lot of experience taking snaps the previous 2 years.
And here's the thing: this will be the first time he'll get to do it on the road. Now, it's different when you're in the confines of your own stadium and the crowd's actually cheering for you, and it feels different. He's got to come to Sanford now, 3:30 primetime game, and be able to do it. Now, the thing he has going for him is he's very athletic. He can move, he can run, he can create. And that's one thing that when you get into tough games like this, being there before, maybe it can help you, it can bail you out, or sometimes it can kind of calm you down if you pick up a running first down or you get outside the pocket and create a pass. That's what I think Auburn definitely will try to lean on. And Kirby mentioned it earlier this week in his press conference, just talking about how the defense will have to be disciplined in their rush lane this week because this guy can get out and run. I mean, he's second on the team in rushing, almost averaging 4.5 yards a carry. So, you know, he's picking up some yards whenever he's, you know, pulling it down. This will be an interesting game for the young guy to come into an environment like this versus defense and play, because obviously our defense has tons of speed. and they kind of relish opportunities to go against guys who want to move around. So it'd be interesting to see how he responds to it on the road for the first time.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a very tough time. I think this crowd this weekend at Sanford will be one of the craziest crowds we've seen in maybe 2 years. And that's because we just haven't had a big game at home. And these people are dying for it. And I think our team's dying for it. To get that excitement and that feel times two that we had to experience in Missouri last week, I really think our defense is going to relish it. I think they're going to attack hard. Auburn's had very good success early in the games. They seem to script out the plays. They seem committed to it. But it seems like after those first couple of 2-3 series, they try to guess at what they're going to do. I just don't think Georgia's going to allow them to do that. I think we'll see a team that learned last week a valuable lesson about being ready. And I think the team will come out there and be ready this week. And I think given the crowd situation, it's going to be really tough for Auburn to handle that first rush that DJ, you know about it. We always talk about it when we're on the road. They're going to experience a big rush this weekend.
And Kev, the other part about it is the communication. Obviously, from the quarterback position, I know they're probably going to do some things, whether it's silent count or quick count or, just calling and running plays. But there's going to be times in this ball game where he has to communicate. And we've seen offensive linemen get antsy. We've seen, Georgia put 5-6 guys up on the line of scrimmage and see a couple guys jump here and there. He's got to come down and communicate with guys. So it's gonna be one of those ball games where it's gonna be new for him. And that crowd, I agree. I feel like they're gonna be rocking this weekend.
I think we would all agree we're going to see a lot of ground attack this weekend with Georgia and Auburn. Certainly with Auburn and Tank Bigsby, he's one of the better backs in the league. So we'll probably see a lot of ground and pound, and that leads me to my next question. With Jalen Carter out for Georgia, now he didn't play much at all against Kent State either. He did play last week until he was injured. What I want to get your take on what our defensive front looks like with the other guys getting opportunities with big number 88 on the sidelines right now. What are your thoughts on the way our defensive line can play without Jalen Carter?
Scott, what was great is Kev, go ahead, Kev, go ahead.
No, go.
I was just going to mention that I feel as though they'll be just fine because you mentioned it. He's been out a few games already, so that's gave other guys opportunity, like a Barry Alexander, who we've seen the last few weeks really show up and be active. We've seen Azir Stackhouse play really well. We've seen Warren Brinson make a couple plays the last few weeks. So I think the depth is there. I think the fact that he's been out a couple games just gives those guys even more confidence that they can step in and play because they've had to. So I think the depth there would be just fine. Those guys relish this opportunity. I remember last year sitting on the sideline and guys like Warren Brinson and Stackhouse were just, watching the Jordan Davises of this team, the Devontae Wyatts, and now it's their opportunity. Now they get a chance to show what they're about, and now they're doing it. So it's going to be fun to watch those guys get after it because they're going to have more extended time knowing that 88 is not going to be running on the field at all. I think a lot of emphasis is going to be put on those guys this week, playing more physical at the point of attack, but also changing that line of scrimmage. Because you go back to last week, there were times where Missouri took it to Georgia on the line of scrimmage part of the ball game. And I know they're going to be stressing that this week is we have to win the line of scrimmage game.
Yeah. Hey, next man up. I think, back when we were playing Scott and DJ, you lose a Jimmy Payne, you lose a Meat Cleaver. There was a hole in your defense. You knew somebody was going to be up there, but you knew you were not going to be at your strength. I think what Kirby and his staff have done in recruiting, that it really does hold. Next man up. These kids are excited. They're not worried that somebody's not going to play. They're excited that they get to go in and it's their moment. And I think that's what these coaches have taught these kids. That's what they've got them ready for. So when your number's called, you get in there and you play like the starter. You play like you're never going to give that position back. I think that's the attitude of our kids. And I'm really just excited to see it. Last week we gave 2 plays up on the run game that accounted for 91 of the 102 yards. We just need to eliminate those big plays, make some little bit more sheer tackling. And I think this defense is right where it needs to be. But next man up, these guys are excited. Their families are excited. And what a great atmosphere to maybe get your first start in between the hedges against Auburn. Golly, I'd do it, but I'm just not big enough.
Last thing for you guys, what are some of the intangibles that maybe we haven't hit on yet that leads Georgia to a victory here? Anything on top of mind that we didn't talk about yet that you feel like Georgia has an edge and can get on Auburn and win game number 6 of the year?
Well, I think, Todd Monken kind of opening that offense up, challenge those guys a little bit more than what we've seen the last 2 weeks. You saw it in Oregon. They came out hitting hard, spreading people out. It just seemed to work a little better from my view. We did the same thing in South Carolina. We seemed to have throttled down and kind of played and wanted to prove some things like DJ was bringing up, that we were going to put it on the offensive line. We were going to run the ball. I think we need to do what we do best this week, and that would give us a good margin of victory.
The biggest thing I want to see is our receivers win. There were times last week where they didn't create much separation. They weren't winning, but late in the ball game, they did make some big time plays. So it was good to see guys like Dominic Blaylock make a couple big time catches last week. One, I remember being on 3rd down, snagging it out of the air. We saw Dylan Bell come in and make some plays. I think he got a start last, couple games. Hoping A.D. Mitchell is back. Kirby said, he's been practicing well. But I think when we have an explosive offense that can throw the football down the field, that can push the ball down the field, that makes the run game even better. And I know Ladd's, kind of been up and down the last few weeks. Hopefully he gets back on track and becomes the consistent guy he's been. But I want to see those receivers win on the outside, put more pressure on the secondary of Auburn. We know the tight end is going to be able to do their job. We've seen them show up every single week and make plays. But I want to see those other guys on the outside win on the perimeter and make some big-time plays down the field and pick up some explosive plays, so 30, 40-yard chunk plays.
All right, I lied. That wasn't the last thing this is. We've gone this whole segment without mentioning Stetson Bennett's name. We can't do that. Give me something that Stetson needs to do to beat Auburn this weekend.
I think Stetson just got to go back to playing within himself. Go back to what he was doing the first couple of games. I felt like the last couple of games, it feels like he's been forcing stuff a little bit more. And when he's gotten a little bit of pressure, that's when things have kind of went a little haywire. He's had, a couple of turnovers here and there. The fact that he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in the last 2 games is pretty remarkable. But we know what Stetson is about. We've seen him do it in these big-time ball games. And even not having his best performance last week, I thought he made a couple of huge throws down the stretch of that ball game to pick up key first downs or to move the chains to give Georgia a chance to get down there and score and win the ball game. So still believe in the mailman. I know he can get back to his old ways, but I think he just got to go back to being more consistent. I don't think he used his legs as much last week in that ball game. I think he has to go back to use his legs. And when he's doing that, I think he is way more comfortable within that offensive scheme.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I was going to say that. I want to see him control his lower body. I see him out at practice, and I see Coach Bobo and Coach Monken always consistently talk about making sure that your legs are set, your feet are set, and you're stepping in. When he steps into his throws, he has as much velocity as anybody. I think he gets into a little trouble last week. He was trying to get things out quick because he was getting pressure, throwing off his back foot, not really balanced. That's not what makes Stetson Stetson. Stetson's very good with his upper body when he controls his lower body.
Kevin Butler and DJ Shockley, guys, thanks so much. We'll see you guys this weekend on the radio. It's Georgia and Auburn, Saturday, 3:30. The kick will probably be 3:38, 3:39. Get in the stadium early, and let's let the dogs know that you're behind them on Saturday afternoon at Sanford Stadium in the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Our broadcast starts at 11:30 with Kevin and Jeff and the Dog Talk pregame show, tailgate show at 12:30, and then right up to kickoff and the full day of Bulldogs football coverage on the Georgia Bulldogs Sports Network. Thanks for being with us here today, and we'll see you next time. And Georgia and Auburn this weekend, go Dogs.
What
Go
else?
Dogs.